Today, we become legends.
Alright boys, it's finally here. We've had a bunch of teasers in the last few days, and we finally got the Season of Souls closer look post. Of course, patch notes are going to be tomorrow, so be sure to subscribe to the channel for my review of like the full notes and everything that's going to be coming to the game. But we have one of the usual like closer look like teaser posts that they do like one day before the patch notes. That will have a bunch of information. I've not read any of it yet. This is just going to be my raw reaction to it. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So the Smite Year 10 Season 3 update 10.6. The time has come for the next season of Year 10, the Season of Souls. This update will bring heavier changes than usual and multiple exciting new features, many of which revolve around an underworld theme. Yeah, which is, we obviously expected this. You know, we're going to be getting Charon. It's the Season of Souls. There's going to be a lot of like underworldy, like dark themes, I assume. It says it'll bring heavier changes than usual. I don't know if that means heavier than like Season of Hope, or if that just means, you know, it's a new season, so it's going to be a bigger patch than like your typical patch, or if it means heavier than, you know, a new season. We'll have to see here. So they've got like an overarching vision of what they want to do here. So even gods can be slain. They can be banished to the underworld, stripped of their power, or forced to stare at a grey screen for 10 and 50 seconds. This is true. Surtur's army of monsters have made significant progress, even with Ishel joining the opposition. The gods of our story faced a hard loss, and thus have found themselves lost in the underworld, but a legendary guide will soon help them find their way. Yeah, Charon, if you haven't seen. Charon's going to be the next god. The Conquest map plunges into the underworld, and all game modes will experience soul surges around the death of a god. Yeah, so this is what we saw yesterday. If you watch my video covering the news roundup of all the stuff we had so far, those soul surges, I assume they're going to do something. We might be able to see further down. Conquest is receiving two new strategic objectives, the Stygian Beacon and the Unleashed Titans. For the first time in Smite history, the Titans of Order and Chaos will finally meet to face to face in a brutal showdown for superiority. The first time in Smite history. They did this like way back in closed beta though, I'm pretty sure. Unless they mean the first time like since Smite's release, because Smite released in 2014. Maybe it was just a myth? I assume they know more about the game than I do. Maybe they never actually did walk up mid and maybe it was all a myth. Because they're saying for the first time in Smite history here. But yeah, it seems like Titans are going to walk up mid, basically. Also the Stygian Beacon, which hopefully we'll get a bit more info on. Additionally, there will be game-wide stat decreases across all tier 3 items, so it looks like we're getting some kind of like another 9.5 style patch where they're trying to like bring down like the stats on pretty much everything and make the time to kill a little bit slower. Basically, it seems like we're going to be getting one of these every year at this point to fix all the like ridiculous buffs that they do throughout the rest of the season. Power items will be nerfed more than protection items as we continue to work toward adjusting the balance between tanks and DPS. The season update is intended to heavily favor tanks. That's good stuff. It's been a while since they said they were going to start like doing stuff for tanks, and they haven't really done it. You know, they put that mitigation cap in, which was literally a nerf to tanks. They destroyed the mitigation build. They haven't really given tanks any buffs in the last couple of patches, so I'm hoping they were kind of saving the big like tank overhaul for this patch, so hopefully that'll be good. In addition to their stat advantage, they'll also be receiving a variety of utility buffs to the passive effects of their items, and there will be 3 new sets of tank-focused glyphs. 3 new sets. So I'm guessing 3 tank items are going to get new glyphs, which is interesting because a lot of the tank item glyphs, I feel like they aren't that great. The breastplate glyphs are pretty terrible. The Heart Ward glyph that gives extra procs based on your fizz procs, it does see a lot of use, to be fair. That's like one of the few ones that's actually like really good. But yeah, this is nice to see. We'll have to see when we get the full patch notes on how far they're actually going to go with this. Obviously, you don't want a full-on tank meta, but we're not even close to that right now. They could buff tanks substantially and it wouldn't be a straight up tank meta. You'd like to get to a more balanced point where tanks and DPS can both, you know, enjoy the game and both have like a power level that isn't just, you know, feeling like one's being dominated by the other. So for the core structure of the update, a quick reminder on how we define our goals for a new season launch. So the Season of Souls launches in June, significant conquest changes. There's going to be new environment art features, yeah, most likely in a similar vein to what we saw with the Season of Hope launch, where they're going to not completely redo the art of the conquest map, but make like some pretty big changes so that it feels and looks very different. Jungle path and lane shape changes and new mechanics or objectives. Yeah, we've seen there's going to be the Stygian Beacon and the Unleashed Titans, and of course a bunch of visual changes and mechanics and stuff. An overarching theme or new mechanic for general gameplay, many items and gods adjusted, and new items and glyphs. So a lot of this stuff is going to be focused towards tanks, but I assume in a similar way to like 9.5, or when they removed the power from bruiser items, or when they nerfed all the lifesteal, there's going to be a massive list of item changes for this patch, I would imagine, where a lot of them are kind of just ancillary, like this item loses 10 power, this item loses 5 power, this item loses some percent pen, that kind of stuff. They're going to be kicking off a big Smite event, so could be some kind of adventure. We don't really know too much about that yet. New battle pass, of course, ranked, soft reset, and new split. I'll probably end up hopping into some more ranked. I kind of just like got burnt out on trying to grind to masters this split. I kind of started too late. I started like 2 months almost into the season, so I didn't really have time. But this is just the first update of the Season of Souls. There are plenty more gameplay features on the way, like Charon, the next god, who will arrive in July, which, yeah, that's going to be in 10.7. And then I think 10.8 is the final patch of Season of Souls. And then we go into 10.9, 10.10, 10.11, and 10.12. It's either the final season or it's this season that has 4 patches. I can't remember which, but yeah, there's going to be one more season after this, of course. So yeah, this is what we saw when they posted it on Twitter. A new gameplay feature, Soul Surges, and it seems like they're coming to every, yeah, it's a game-wide mechanic, meaning they will appear on every map in Smite. This new feature creates new objectives that can spawn at any location in a map, creating a vast amount of unique possibilities. So when a god dies, a Soul Surge will spawn at the point of their demise, as we can see here. A god just died in the center of there. It looks like they have a gigantic radius. Soul Surges are circular areas of effect that grant movement speed to all gods in the area and a buff to damage dealt to gods with low health in the area. So extra movement speed and a sort of semi-execute style effect. You know, not an execute in the sense of Thanatos or Achilles or anything, but an execute in, like, I guess the MMO sense, where, like, your abilities deal more damage, or everything will deal more damage to targets as they're lower on health. While a Soul Surge is active, spirit minions will spawn from the center, attacking any nearby gods and providing XP and gold when slain. Interesting. So some kind of way to get additional farm. Likely won't matter in casual modes all that much. You know, arena, it's not going to matter. Joust, it might matter a little. Slash, probably not going to matter. Assault could potentially have some implications there, but for Conquest, that's where, like, this extra farm is really going to matter. It's obviously the most farm-focused game mode by far. Every other game mode, you get substantially more, like, farm just thrown at you. And, yeah, going to be some spirit minions spawning and attacking nearby gods, so it's a little bit of a risky play. You know, you get the more movement speed, you get the extra damage to low health gods to potentially secure a kill, but you're going to have these spirit minions, like, running around and attacking you. Any additional god deaths anywhere on the map cause the area to expand and extend in duration. So they can just, like, stack up. So in the clip they showed, only one god died here and it became that size. So, like, I don't know if that's the max size and they just didn't show the gods being killed, or if, like, you can kill more gods and get it to be even bigger than this, because if it gets much bigger than this, it's going to be covering, like, half the map, dude. Like, especially in like side modes, you know, arena, joust, it's going to be covering a good portion of the map. Maybe not in Conquest, but yeah, if you get like a bunch of chain kills, that could actually like cover so much of the map. After the timer expires, there is a global surge cooldown for all players. So yeah, it seems like you're only going to get one of those, and there's going to be some kind of cooldown where they're not going to spawn again, basically. So usually when a team fight erupts, you know, and after the first kill, one of these things is going to spawn, and then it's going to allow for some potential more like damaging plays with the execute and all that kind of stuff, and just cause some chaos in fights. This, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this. I kind of like the thematic sense of it, you know, souls and all that stuff, but this just seems like a bit of a redundant gameplay mechanic to me. I don't really know what it's supposed to be doing, to be honest. But maybe after we see a little bit more about it and like how it can be used, maybe it'll be a bit more interesting. So gameplay features, Conquest. We have a couple of images here of what the new Conquest map is going to look like. So there's like some storm in the sky above that's the Order base. The whole map looks way darker, just in general. There's like bones and like skeletons and stuff, like hanging soul lanterns. So yeah, pretty much all the stuff we would have expected from a Season of Souls like map overhaul update. You know, Season of Hope was all the rainbows and the water and happiness and all that stuff. And then Season of Souls is despair, skeletons, soul lanterns, storms in the sky. Kind of just what we expected. But keeping a little bit of that water, we have some of these skulls around that are crying. Crying for how terrible the Season of Hope was, am I right, boys? But yeah, looks cool. I like it. I prefer the design of the previous iteration in the Season of Hope, to be honest. I prefer a little bit of a brighter map, to be honest. But I'm not complaining. This is still pretty cool, and it's nice to just see things like switched up a little bit, because this isn't a gameplay change. It's not something everyone's gonna have to relearn the map for. It's just a nice visual change to like keep things fresh and, you know, not have everything look the same all the time. Oh, is that in duo lane? Maybe this is part of like the Stygian obelisks or whatever the hell that was and further up. But yeah, it's this little skeleton in a boat, obviously a reference to Charon, with a little soul lantern hanging over what I think is duo lane there, right? With the water? Yeah, it's fire on like the solo side. So duo lane, you're gonna have a nice little skeleton to look at while you impale each other against your erect structures as Anhurt. So pretty cool. So this all-new Underworld art set features a variety of new deadly assets, monuments, and a different feel throughout the map. Seasons of Souls Conquest is all about big objectives. We wanted to introduce more ways to gain a meaningful advantage over the enemy team through clearly visible and contestable encounters. Yeah, so I've been talking about this for, I don't know, maybe the last month or so, that we need this kind of stuff back in the game that like got removed at the end of Season 9, like some more things to allow you to push for a win and like force fights, because turtling is like so strong right now. You can just turtle and like there's not really that much you can do other than just taking fire, gold, or pyro. There wasn't really much else you could really do to like extend your lead and force people to fight you. Otherwise, you just get so much like extra farm that you just win anyway by default. And yeah, they introduced the like comeback mechanics as well, which made this even worse, and they did partially revert those. But yeah, the game really was not in a snowbally state whatsoever. So I think it's fine to add these kind of new objectives that could maybe introduce a little bit of snowball, because a little bit of snowball is actually healthy for the game. You don't want like all of your hard work in like the first 20 minutes to just be completely undone by like one death or something. Like you do want a bit of snowball. If you've been playing well and you've been winning the game for the first 20 minutes, you deserve to like have a lead and have the opportunity to end the game. So one of the new objectives, the Stygian Beacon. This is a capture point style objective located just outside the mid lane. Stand in the area in greater numbers than your opponent to capture it. The Stygian Beacon will always activate exactly 3 times in each match of Conquest. The team that successfully captures the beacon will gain a permanent stacking damage buff that increases their damage dealt to towers, phoenixes, and the Titan, as well as team-wide gold and XP. So pretty standard stuff here, to be honest. It's basically just a kind of like, I guess, a mini Fire Giant style effect. You know, Fire Giant does this where you increase your damage to structures and stuff like that. Obviously, Enhanced Fire Giant also removes part of the backdoor protections and stuff. So like this, if you can get this like all 3 times and you stack this with an EFG, that's going to be really easy to siege, dude. Depending on the values of it, of course. If it's like 1% extra damage for each one, obviously it's not going to be that good. But for example, say it's like 10% more damage, you get 30% from these, and then you get Enhanced Fire Giant, removes 75% of backdoor protections, I think, and also extra damage to structures. That could really help with like actually being able to end the game and like push your lead. So I do like this. We'll have to see how it plays out in game. Probably going to make mid lane even more of a hub than it already was. Maybe supports are going to rotate a bit earlier in the next season, because supports have kind of been sitting in duo a little bit more recently, up to like 6-7 minutes or so, but maybe supports will like start rotating again at like 3 to 4 minutes like they did in the past, because you need to contest the Stygian Beacon. Like you're going to need your support there. Like probably junglers will hang around mid a little bit. You're going to want like the core 3 mid jungle support like available to contest the Stygian Beacon. It'll activate exactly 3 times. We don't know the timers on this. You know, maybe it's like 10, 20, 30 minutes, or maybe it's 5, 10, 15 minutes or something like that. So maybe depending on the times, solo laners and ADCs could potentially rotate and fights would erupt over the Stygian Beacon and stuff like that. So I do like this. This is like adding a good amount of like stuff that can allow you to push your lead and like actually force fights and have something to do if you're winning. So the Unleashed Titans. After the 3rd and final Stygian Beacon, the Titans will break the bind of Tartarus and become unleashed. The lane with the most total structure health will be highlighted, and after a slight delay, the Titans will march down it. The Titans will meet in the middle of that lane and face off with their melee attacks as well as 2 new abilities, so it's cool that Titans are getting abilities. I was speculating that might happen. Deplete an Unleashed Titan's health bar to repel it, teleport it back to base, and then continue to push to victory with the surviving Titan. Okay. Unleashed Titans are symmetrical and use a fresh set of HP bars separate from the health that they would have had in the base. Slay a Titan in the base before or after this encounter. This is so confusing. So it spawns like what is essentially a phantom copy of your Titan. If it dies, it doesn't matter. It just goes back to the base. The health bars are like symmetrical, so no matter if you're winning the game, if you have phoenixes down or whatever, your Titan will be the same health as their Titan, which I don't like, to be honest. But of course, you don't win the game if you kill the Titan. It teleports back to the base, so you still have to win the game as normal anyway. So this is just like a random stopgap event in the middle of the game where like what does it do? You think if maybe you defeat their Unleashed Titan, it would like weaken their Titan maybe. But I don't think it says anything about that here. This is extremely confusing. I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of this. So it's after the 3rd and final Stygian Beacon, which we don't know how long that's going to be. It could be on a timer, it could be like a farm-based thing. I have absolutely no idea how long it's going to take for that. But yeah, so they're symmetrical. They use a fresh set of health bars. That doesn't matter how much health they are when they're in the base. Slay the Titan in the base before or after this encounter to end the match. So it just teleports back to base and then you continue. So you continue to push to victory with the surviving Titan. So if the fight happens, you win the fight, enemy Titan TPs back to base, your Titan continues running down the lane. At that point, I assume it's still a Phantom Titan, and it's kind of like a Siege Juggernaut, and it will just help you end the game, and, you know, the enemy team can't kill your Titan and win off of that. I assume your Titan would just teleport back to base if that happens. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. When I initially read this, I thought, like, oh, you've got to end the game right there, and if the enemy team kill your Titan, it's over, but I assume it will teleport back, and it's basically a glorified Siege Juggernaut at that point. I'm really hoping this makes a lot more sense when we get to see the patch notes show and actually how it works in game, because this is extremely confusing to me, and I'm not a huge fan. So they say these two objectives create big opportunities for team fights. Both these objectives favor the team who properly positions the right way in the right areas, but knowing what exactly will be necessary is harder than it seems. If a team overcommits to the beacon, they might leave themselves open for losing a Gold Fury or a Fire Giant. Yeah, that's true, and I do like the beacon. I think the beacon's quite cool. I'm just a little bit skeptical on this Unleashed Titans thing. Yeah, obviously Gold Fury and Fire Giant are more valuable. Using these new objectives in this way and splitting your team effectively will be the key to victory. Yeah, it will make for some very interesting gameplay, I think, that beacon. Obviously don't... I mean, depending on which side of mid it's on, if it's closer to gold or closer to pyro, I think in my opinion it should be closer to pyro, so you risk losing gold. Because if you get the beacon and the pyro, you know, maybe it's about even with gold or something, because gold's worth more. But yeah, we'll have to see. I do like that idea. Additionally, Conquest is getting some additional balance on pathing changes to solve problems we have seen across the Season of Souls. I assume they mean the Season of Hope there. Shutdown bonuses and Cyclops chests will be decreased in value. Very good. This was just insane in terms of like getting back into the game and anti-snowball. Gold, silver, and both mid-harpies will increase in value. Mid-harpy is definitely good because they take a lot to kill in the early game, and oftentimes it's not even worth like the damage that you'll take as a mid laner to actually clear those. And yeah, gold and silver buff increasing in value, that's fine. Fire Giant respawn will be increased to 5 minutes and buff duration to 4 minutes. Wasn't it already 5 minutes? Or was it 4 and 3 before, and now it's 5 and 4 or something? So not really anything too huge, but you got a little bit more time to end the game there. Phoenixes will be easier to kill. So I don't know if this means they've nerfed the health of Phoenixes directly, or if this is referencing the like Stygian Beacon damage and stuff like that. Because if they've made Phoenixes less tanky and added the Stygian Beacon and increased Fire Giant, maybe this is too much. I don't want to say that because like it's been too much in the other direction for most of this season, but this is going to be pretty insane. This might be a very snowbally season. Access to the nearest buff camp from lanes will be quicker, and pass around back happy and Cyclops camps have been opened up for faster travel times. So yeah, I imagine more entrances to like blue, red, green, and purple from the lanes, so you don't have to like walk around, because I think for basically all of those buffs you have to walk around like a substantial amount of wall just to get to them. So they'll probably open them up a little bit more to where you can just kind of like sneak into them after coming out of lane for like a little bit, especially for blue and purple, but for green and red also that would make sense. Mid lane is significantly wider and shifted more towards solo lane as the beacon spawns on the duo side. Okay, so beacon does spawn on duo side. I'd rather it spawned on solo side, to be honest, because then if you're contesting the beacon, you're so much closer to Gold Fury, and so like if you get beacon and gold, and then like the enemy team just gets pyro, that's like big for you. But yeah, mid lane wider and shifted more towards solo, which is interesting. So I assume it still kind of comes up the middle, and then like in the middle of the middle lane, it kind of like branches out like in a curve, like more towards solo or something like that, and then you have on like the duo side of that big curve, you have the Stygian Beacon. But yeah, overall, these Conquest changes look pretty decent. So this season has some sweeping balance adjustments. Nearly every single tier 3 item in the game is going to get changed, and roughly 35 underperforming gods are getting utility-focused buffs. So yeah, this is pretty good to see. We'll have to... It's going to be extremely hard to tell how like this is going to impact the game with every single item getting nerfed. You know, it's going to be a 9.5 style thing where like it's going to take a while, I think, for the meta to settle and people realize what kind of like nerfs and buffs actually like impacted. So item stat efficiency nerf pass, there's so much in this dev update, dude. I feel like the patch notes are going to be huge. Over the years, through many buffs and nerfs, there will tend to be slightly more buffs than nerfs. This does kind of make sense. In general, you want to buff slightly more than you'll nerf, because nerfing feels really bad and buffing feels better. But you don't want to overdo it, of course, so you kind of end up in this situation that Smite's been in for a few years, where you have to do a 9.5 like nerf patch every single season, basically, because you just buff things so much. And so the items as a whole gain more stats. Yeah, we've definitely seen this. If you compare an item from Season 1 to an item from Season 10, insane. Additionally, new items are added and have to overcome especially high barriers to get players to break the habit from trying them. So items as a whole gain more stats again. Yeah, this is a very common phenomenon in games. If you add something new, it generally has to be slightly stronger than all the old stuff to incentivize people to actually try it and allow people to actually win with it, because if it's the same power level or weaker than the old stuff, people are already familiar with the old stuff, and so the new stuff will perform very badly. So that's why God releases are generally OP. Of course, Smite takes it too far sometimes. We all know that, but that's why generally it's better to release like a slightly OP God than a slightly underperforming God. So, for all tier 3 items, decrease physical and magical power base stats by 30%, decrease the health, physical, and magical protection by 15%. So yeah, this will favor tanks. Overperforming items may have additional nerfs on top of these reductions, that makes sense, and underperforming items may have buffs. Starter item upgrades and a few relevant map effects were also adjusted. So yes, starter items obviously the most powerful items in the game, so it would make sense that they might get like some specific target nerfs, along with like the general like power and protection decreases. Some of the results we expect to see from this. Harder to cap. How your god powers up from start to finish will feel different. I don't really know what that means, but I assume harder to cap means like, you know, you're not going to get to the cap of like protections and stuff, because that we've seen that as a bit of a problem with tanks lately, in that you can hit the protection cap pretty easily, and therefore you can't get more tanky because there's a mitigation cap now. You hit the protection cap, you can buy more health, sure, but like it's kind of hard to get more tanky when you're literally at the protection cap within like 4 or 5 items, especially on supports. Supports get very tanky, and so it kind of just feels bad. Whereas now, like, you're going to have less protection, so it's going to be harder to get to that cap, but it's going to be more meaningful to be at that cap because all of the power in the game has been reduced by 30%, and maybe we'll see some pen nerfs as well and stuff. So it will definitely help with making gods feel more tanky, because you're not just going to be like hitting the cap like super early. Generally, decreased burst, DPS versus DPS god combat will see an increased TTK in the late game, and tankier tanks, DPS versus tank combat will see an increased late game TTK as well. So yeah, just general like 9.5 style of stuff. Good to see in general. We'll have to see like the actual changes and how it plays out and all that stuff, of course. Like we can't judge from just like a few sentences here on how this is actually going to play out, but it does seem like a generally good idea. So they have a couple of example changes here. Divine Ruin goes from 100 to 70. I mean, at one point, I think Divine Ruin had like 40 or 50 power. That's how insane like things have got. So Deathbringer down from 40 to 30. Spirit Rub losing like 5 of each protection. So you can see in general like the power reduction is going to be more than the prot reduction. The community feedback and data toward tank balance have been consistent over the past few updates, and so we aim to build some tank favoritism directly into this system while also achieving the other goals. But this isn't only a tank favoring feature we have this season, or it isn't the only tank favoring feature. So yeah, these are the new glyphs we're going to see. Relic Dagger's finally getting glyphs. Let's go, boys. I've been saying for so long that Relic Dagger should get glyphs. I made a video of like custom glyphs, and Relic Dagger was one of them. So Bewitched Dagger, bet you can guess this one. Witchblade, let's go. Witchblade's back, boys. Nice, I like that. And then Eldritch Dagger. No idea what that's going to be, to be honest. Obviously going to be like Cthulhu themed, but we don't know. Maybe it's like some kind of madness CC or something. Runeforged Hammer, we're getting Flameforged Hammer, which maybe will be like some more damage, maybe. Rune Breaking Hammer sounds like maybe it'll have some kind of prot reduction or something like that. They've removed a lot of the prot reduction from tanky items, so maybe this is a way that you can get a little bit back by going like a bruiserish like hammer. Rune Breaking does sound a little bit like it's going to potentially be shredding prots off of people. Pridwin getting glyphs as well. That's pretty cool, dude. Pridwin's one of my favorite items, so gonna be nice to see that get glyphs. Glorious Pridwin and Reverent Pridwin. No idea on these, to be honest. Probably we'll have like one more aggressive one and one more defensive. Probably Reverent is like a more aggressive one, where maybe it leans more into like the damage burst that you get after the shield pops, and maybe Glorious Pridwin is like more defensive themed, you know, maybe it gives part of that shield to your nearby allies, or maybe it gives a larger shield, or like damage mitigation while the shield is on you, or something like that, you know, a more defensive option, and then a more aggressive option. We won't spoil too much about these yet, but they all bring impactful new utility effects that solo and support players should be quite interested in. Yeah, I'm very excited for these, dude. Glyphs are always cool, and I think these 3 items are like perfect for it, because Relic Dagger, not seeing too much play, and I think there's a lot of potential to explore like different relic effects within that. You know, maybe making your relic effects like last longer or be stronger or something like that, in addition to the reduced cooldown that Relic Dagger already provides. Runeforged Hammer, an item that just really hasn't seen too much play since they changed it, and it will be nice for it to get some glyphs to kind of bring it back into the meta. And Pridwin, just a sick item that I think that has a lot of like glyph potential in general. Additional item balance. There are some additional balance goals within this massive sea of nerfs. Underperforming tank item buffs will not counteract the 15% stat nerf, so they are still going to get nerfed, but maybe they'll get buffed in like a different area or something. Underperforming DPS glyph item buffs. Interesting. I wonder what glyphs are like underperforming for DPS right now. Maybe Executioner glyphs, because you would just go Deathbringer. They should make a kin-sized glyph, dude. In my custom glyphs video, I know I'm self-promoting so much here, but in my custom glyphs video that I put out, I've made some kin-sized glyphs, and I think it'd be cool to have like crit and kins have glyphs as well. You might want to like nerf kins, because kins is really strong right now if you're going to give it a glyph, but yeah. Mage ADC item buffs, so yeah, at the start of the season, Mage ADCs were dominating, but then they kind of nerfed them pretty hard and buffed a lot of standard hunter items. We have that crit meta, now we have this kin-size meta. Mage ADC has been underperforming for a long time, so some buffs to those will be nice. Support aura item nerf / shifts. The auras were nerfed more or instead of base stats for their 15% reduction. Good. Support auras were part of the problem in terms of like solo laners can't damage backliners because every backliner has like 120 prots now, when like back in the day they would have like 40 or 50. And so it became really hard for like just warriors to get any of their base damage through, because at 100 prots you're taking half damage. And so, like, when your warrior is dealing, like, for example, 300 base damage on, like, Hercules Driving Strike or something, that's actually only dealing 150 to a backliner, because tanks can't build pen, realistically. There's Stone of Binding, but that's kind of it. And so you end up with a situation where your damage is just getting mitigated so much by aura items that, like, solo laners can't really threaten, especially in combination with the power being removed from all the bruiser items. So, yeah, this should help with that. Movement speed nerfs on various sources. Okay, I don't really know why. I think movement speed is kind of fine. I don't really see movement speed being a particular problem in the meta. A lot of the like movement speed items that are good, like Golden Blade and Doom Orb, are good for like probably different reasons. I don't think the movement speed is really the problem. Starter item balance. Hopefully they can like rebalance some of the starter items and make some of them, because like for example in mid, Sands of Time has been the go-to starter for how many years? 2 or 3 or something since they were introduced basically in like season 8. I want to say that's just been like the go-to. So. Some like changes around for some starter items that can maybe like shift up the meta will be pretty cool. Percent pen cap and amounts revert. Oh. So they're reverting the percent pen changes. In a way I like this because I think it makes the game look so much nicer when you get 10, 10, 20 and you're capped at 40 rather than 8, 8, 16 and you're capped at 32. It looks terrible. And if they can make other changes where they're going to be taking some power off and making tanks stronger in general, they probably can revert this as long as they do some good work with the other changes, and then, you know, the game looks cleaner with 10, 10, 20, and then you can still have tanks be tanky. When we introduce a significant amount of tank strength to Smite, it is always important to have options to counteract it. For this reason, yeah, they decided to revert the changes. To be honest, I would have just waited. I would have waited either until the bonus balance or 10.7 just to see how this patch plays out, because depending on what they change, you know, it could be a huge tank meta, or it could change nothing. We don't actually know, so because there's going to be so many changes, it's going to be very hard to predict what the meta will be after this. The previous nerf to these values was indeed effective at the time. We saw tanks living longer and winning more, but the community was still mixed on the concept, and with these new changes, we found it especially important to revert. We will be certainly looking at this dynamic throughout the following updates and make more adjustments as needed. This season is shaping up to be the biggest one yet, arguably larger than 10.1 itself. Yeah, I mean, just this post in general, how long have I been recording for? Half an hour? Normally when I record these kind of like review videos, they're like 15 to 20 minutes tops. So like this has been a really huge post, and the patch notes probably going to be even more huge with all the changes. So of course, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be reviewing all that stuff. I'll break it down for you guys in like a digestible format because it's going to be such a huge patch. So if you want to see that, definitely subscribe to the channel so you can catch those. So I think they just got a little summary here. Gameplay feature list. Every single tier 3 item with any power, protections, or HP getting nerfed. 6 new glyphs across 3 items for tanks. Underworld Conquest changes, Soul Surge, Stygian Beacon, and Unleashed Titans. Approximately 35 gods receiving buffs, and 6 gods only receiving nerfs. I guess we did recently have the 10.6 bonus balance. No, 10.5, yeah. 10.5 bonus balance we had recently, which nerfed a lot of the top gods. And so I guess they're just going to be hitting the other ones that weren't necessarily nerfed in that patch in this one. The Season of Souls was certainly ushering a new meta for casual and competitive Smite. Conquest objectives, economy, and strategy will be more important, and fights will be less volatile. Careful and consistent control should be rewarded over chance. Will you thrive in the underworld, or will you wash up on the shores of the river Styx? So yeah, we'll definitely change the meta a lot. The SPL Masters tournament is going to be played on the new patch, so that should be pretty interesting. That's in about, I think, about 2 weeks from now, and that's going to be played on the new patch, so it'll be interesting. I think the pros have already had a look and like a preview of this patch, and they'll probably be able to play on it like very soon if they haven't already been playing on it, to be able to like prepare and do scrims and stuff for the Masters LAN. And so yeah, should be pretty cool. Huge patch. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it down below, and let me know what specific change you're talking about, because there's like 15 billion different changes in this one patch. But yeah, should be cool. Definitely, I will be tuning into the patch notes tomorrow and making a video on that, and I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.